Great, dude. And first of all, I just want to say, man, it's an honor to be on with you guys. And Ivan, again, congratulations. I think that for one, not everybody, it's kind of like you can't pick your parents. Like my mom just gave birth to me and I was here. Like I wasn't like, I couldn't, as before I was born, say, hey, I want you and you to raise me. It was just what it was what it was. And so I think for a lot of times when you're with FFL, it's such a big company. I mean, you look at like $500 million. I think Sean was just talking about how 11 million in paid business for the week, another record. And that being said, there's a lot of people hiring. There's a lot of VPs, a lot of board members, a lot of managers, and you sometimes don't get to choose who you're with because you just kind of reached out to an ad or whatever. And I think, and I don't say this on every call because I couldn't say it because I wouldn't mean it. But for all of you on here, you've got somebody that you're working with in Ivan that has developed a business to such a high regard that he's an integrity partner. And if he's gone the way and he's been able to get there, that means that he can do the same for you. And there's not, there's more and more integrity partners popping out with FFL. There's no question. I think it'll be like 100 by next year. But to have somebody that's an integrity partner, and I think for some of you on here, if you're anything like I am, I was always wondering, like, can I do this? And then is there somebody that can help me do it? And do they care and can I trust them? And I think that, going back to even hiring and building business, everybody that you're talking to that's a potential recruit, that's what they're thinking. They're thinking, man, can I do it? Right? That's the doubt. That's the disbelief. That's the past. That's all the stuff that they've gone through, all the stuff that they've done, all the stuff that they've heard, maybe a label that they've picked up and called themselves because of their past. Maybe it's somebody said something about them or to them that they've carried. Can I do this? And then the next thing is, which is why it's so important to build belief and instill belief as a leader and to get people on the podcast and the training and the calls, because they're going to let go of the doubt and pick up belief as they hear it more and more and more. But then can somebody help me do it? That's the second thing I think they want to know. And Ivan, I can tell you this much, man, I've learned a lot from you. I still remember the call that you did for our group back when we had a conference call, not a Zoom, and you had gotten pulled over by the police officer. And dude, you were just about your business, bro. You had your headphones on, like, sir, you can't have this on. And you were dialing, you were doing calls, and you're running production. And it was nonstop. And dude, I'll tell you what, man, I want to follow anybody that's nonstop and that actually cares, and you do. So I'm excited to be on with you, man. Anything you want me to talk about or what have you, I could definitely address it if you want to do questions, or I could just go on and talk about stuff that's on my heart, whatever you want to, format it as.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our conversations are definitely non-scripted, so there is really no reason for that. But I did have a few questions, and I appreciate what you just said. I definitely don't take the business lightly, and not to beef up my case here, but for someone that's working here and something's not going the right way, I just want to put it out there. I am here for you, and one thing is this, that we create a culture of independent contractors. So what that means that I'm here for you, but you need to speak up, you need to raise your hand and say, I need help. Because when I was getting started and I was listening to your calls, Paul, and we connected at some point as well, but obviously I didn't expect you to know me. I didn't expect you to just say, oh, let me call Ivan, let me help him, right? So like, you had no clue, but I had to speak up, reach out, and let you know that I'm present, I'm here, I'm doing it, but can you please give me some time? So, but I mean, thanks, man. Thanks for what you said. I wanted to dive right into it because, and the segue from the Monday morning wake up call would be, me asking you about these, how to build that belief level, because you definitely help a lot of people, and you've been helping a lot of people for the past 7 years to build that belief in themselves, and every single time I would come out of the Monday morning wake up call, and you would do it in Pacific time. So I would dial for an hour, jump on the call for half hour, jump back on the phones, and I'd be dialing nonstop. And, you would bring so much energy, and you would help me build that belief. So how does one build that kind of belief? Because that's one of foundations on this business is the mindset. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, man. Well, I think, Ivan, for me, like it was easy to believe in myself when I had others instilling that belief in me. And so it's kind of like when you talk to people, Ivan, you in your mind, you don't ever think that this is something that only you could do. Like you're convinced that anybody can do this. And I'm convinced that anybody can do this. Now in the beginning, I wasn't convinced of that, but Sean was. And it's because he was convinced that anybody could do this. I was able to minimize the doubt and disbelief in the things that I kind of looked at as hurdles or things that I need to know, and I needed to figure this out. And if I was able to get away from this conditional action, meaning that I was willing to move, but I need to know more about product, but I need to know more about this, I need to know more about that. I don't feel secure. And because he was such a communicator of anybody can do this and he minimized it, it kind of helped me out. Now, the things that I did for myself to kind of help get my mind right and believe that, hey, I can go out there and achieve success was I would consume a lot of podcasts. I just started to change my consumption. Before, my consumption was pointless conversations, talking to people from high school, people from college, buddies I used to hang out with. And I stopped and said, is this going to get me to where I want to go? Does this conversation improve my life, whether it's personally, financially, spiritually, professionally? Does it give me any value? And I remember really sitting back and thinking about that and interrogating my schedule and what was in my schedule. Like, what did my day look like? Almost like an audit of my time. And I realized that I always felt better and I always believed and I always had thoughts that lined up with success more when I was consuming the things that brought value. And so one of the first things I time blocked to help build my belief intentionally, Ivan, where it was no matter how I feel, I'm going to do this, was the podcast and watching it live. Now back then it was conference calls, MP3s, nowadays podcast. But I told myself I had to do it. I had to hop on live and it was a non-negotiable. Now it was easy. What do you think I ever thought like, well, it's Friday. Now I'm Pacific time. It's 8 a.m. The TNL. And I'm thinking like, man, that client wants an 8 a.m. and I could watch it recorded. Of course I did. But if it's a non-negotiable, it's non-negotiable. How did I get my mind right on not giving into the compromise of this other rationalized thinking of, I could just watch this recording. Let me go to that appointment. For me, it was, what if on that TNL, I hear something that if I didn't hear it, I wouldn't help that family that I'm debating on going to. And I could just tell you, there's been many weeks where at the end of the week, I thought what I learned on that TNL, what I learned on that Monday morning wake up podcast, what I learned on whatever podcast I'm on, what I learned, if I didn't know that, I would have had like 9 no sales. If I would have listened to it after the fact. So for me, and I'm not telling you, I'm just giving you what built my belief was non-negotiable. When I chunked down my schedule, I knew for one, if I have structure, I have higher belief as well. And so it was me starting to structure in things that were also belief builders. So the structure alone allowed me to believe that I could do it at a higher rate because I had a plan. I had structure. And I still believe that the number one reason why people fail in this business is a lack of structure. It's a lack of discipline. They don't have it scheduled, and because they don't have priorities time blocked and structured, then their schedule is basically just moving them through it. They don't have control. They're being controlled by what they think and what they feel. I didn't want to be controlled with what I felt because hell, I don't feel like waking up at 5 a.m. sometimes. I don't feel like dialing. I don't feel like going to the 9 o'clock appointment when I've already written 10,000 for the day and I smoked it. And I think like, man, I'm an OG, 10K, I'm good. I don't like going to the 9 o'clock appointment when I got smoked for the day. Most of the time, I don't feel like doing the things that I want to do. That's why I love my daughter the other day. Ivan, she came home and she said, Parker said, I'm gonna go jump on the trampoline. I'm not gonna stay in here because they're fighting. And Payne said, well, do you, boo? And I was like, what did you say? She's like, oh, that's what everybody says nowadays is do you, boo? And I was like, that's the stupidest freaking thing I've ever heard. I actually got angry when I heard it because you're not supposed to do you. You're supposed to create a new you. I'm trying to transform my mindset. I'm trying to transform and renew my mind and see things at a higher level, to be more, to become more, to give more, to return more. And so I'm not trying to do me. I'm not trying to do what I feel like doing. I'm trying to do what's going to make a difference. So my structure gives me belief that if I just work this, I don't have to have a great week. But if I work this, inevitably, I'm going to have a good month. And so I just built belief in that. So I built belief by the podcast training. Also, I would say there's always a podcast, maybe one throughout all the podcasts of the week. There's a ton of them out there that it just serves you better than the other ones. And when I say you, meaning not me, not everybody, but you, because you are at a different place in this business than somebody else. And the podcast that serves you well this week won't be the same podcast that'll serve you well 6 months from now, because you're at a different place. You're at a different process. You're at a different stage in the process of going from where you want to be to where you're currently at. So that being said, once I found that podcast, this is good, whether it's Phone Script, In-Home, whatever it was, that podcast I listened to while I drove from one house to the next. When I got up in the morning, when I was at the gym, I'm listening to that podcast. I want to get it in me, because I think that life will give you circumstances, situations, and people to reveal where you're not free. And when I say not free, not like you're stuck in some kind of prison, but not free in the sense that, like in the beginning, I needed to make money. What kept me in bondage or trapped was I needed to make money. So therefore, I wasn't able to serve the clients and connect with the clients and communicate to the clients in such a way to best serve them, because the eyes were on me. So how life revealed that to me is when I got on a podcast and somebody talked about caring about the clients, and Brian Mendenhall was going through like how he articulates emotion, all that. And I remember being brand new thinking like, man, that's so good. It was so good and nourishing for me, because it's where I was stuck. That podcast was revealing to me where I wasn't free. And so I listened to it. So much so where I'm convinced that I care more about the clients now than anybody else, because it was where I wasn't free from. I was like, I like selling. I like persuading. I love persuasion talk. That's just something I love to do. I loved to do when I was 7. I was pushing Pong, I was selling Pong. Was it Pogs? Those things, I can't remember what they were called. They're like the things that, anyways. But then Pokemon, when I started selling Pokemon, I liked that. But I knew that wouldn't get me to greatness as a producer, because I had to care about the clients. And it wasn't like I didn't care about people, but it was like a sell to me. And it couldn't be a sell to me. I'll give you an example. I put together 8 steps to final expense in-home a couple years back. And it was from everything I learned from so many appointments and experiences and screwing things up and messing things up and hopping on podcasts. And I put that in place. And Ivan, my daughter, came in, and I had some leads that had rolled up. For all you builders, you know what that feels like. I got some leads that bounced up. I got some leads in my CRM that shouldn't be in the CRM, but they happened to be where I lived. And my daughter said, Dad, what are you doing? I said, I'm allocating leads. She said, what's a lead? So I broke down a lead list to her. And this is probably a year ago. I'd already been out of the field for about 2 years. And she said, well, I said, you call them. She said, can you call it? I want to listen. And I was like, all right, I'll call it. Hadn't called lead in, I don't know, year. Called it, booked the appointment. I go out to the appointment. It's Greg and Gretchen. Go up to the house. I'm not preparing or nothing. I've done it for 10 years. Heck, I'm a top 10 producer for 10 years. I got this figured out. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. I got it. I go in the client's house, dude. I'm not making this up, dude. I forgot what freaking all 8 steps were. I connect with the client, and I'm thinking like, oh shoot, what I go to the process? Dude, I'm like stuck, like as if I'm a new agent, man, because I've been rusty. It's been a while. I'm trying to remember these 8 steps that I came up with. And I at that moment, I realized, like, who cares? All that matters is I care about them. And I got away from that, ended up the 8 steps. I think I forgot 2 steps, and the 5 are all mixed match, and they're all scrambled up. But at the end of it, Greg and Gretchen, it was one of those situations where They already had a plan in place. Income was tight. When they died, there was not really a loss of income, not a great why, but I cared, and I didn't sell them. And it was just me figuring out their situation. I just heard them out, did the financial inventory. Steps are all jacked up. But at the end of it, Greg and Gretchen said, Paul, we prayed last night because we were really unsure if we wanted you to even come over. We didn't know at all really anything about this. We just got this form in the mail about protecting the mortgage. We didn't know what it was. We didn't know if it was going to be true, if it was a scam, or we just didn't know. And we just want to say thank you because we felt like you really cared about us and that you put us first and you figured out our situation. And we're just really grateful that you did that. And we know that you care and we're excited that you're the person to help us. And I realized at that time, like I put the 8 steps and I still forgot them. And it reminded me that like if you could just care, you're going to be so good. If you care, everything will work out a lot better, right? It'll work out better. So the Belief Builders, Ivan, was the podcast, the recordings, and between appointments. I'd also schedule 4 hours throughout the week that was dedicated to I called it like business development. Like it was developing my business. Like I would, whether it was annuities or hiring or recruiting, there was time where I would sit there and I'd take notes. And it was time scheduled for that. Business Belief Builders is also personal development. Early on, I think what served me probably the best was a personal growth plan. Having a dedicated time to wake up, put the phone across the room with a bottle of water, it goes off. I got to get up. I got to pound the water bottle, get you awake because you can't go back to bed after your beer bong, a water bottle typically. So I'm now fired up. Let's go. I go downstairs. I'm great. I do my gratitude journal, which is the journal app, 5-minute journal. You should all have it. It's phenomenal. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. Picture that, really kind of builds gratitude. So I'll find a picture of my kids, family, whatever. It could be a picture of a business meeting where I'm just like, man, I'm just so grateful. I got good people around me. I could screenshot this picture of Ivan because your face is bigger than mine, which I like. So I might screenshot this. And this is what I'm grateful for tomorrow, that I got guys and business partners like Ivan, whatever that might be. I'm grateful for the fact that I got air, I got breath. I'm grateful for the fact that I got, a car drive, whatever it may be. But then it's 5-minute journal. So I have that listed, and I do the affirmations, my affirmations, whatever behavior I know I need, whatever qualities and character that I know I need to achieve what I want to achieve, I'm vocalizing that. If I know I need to connect with people, man, I'm a great connector. I communicate effectively with all people. My communication interrogates reality, it provokes learning, and tackles tough challenges and enriches relationships. I'm a great connector. I'm great at serving people. I'm great at helping people. I'm passionate. I'm enthusiastic. I'm energetic. I'm disciplined, focused, self-control. You start speaking the stuff that you need to have. Because if you want to be a top producer, what do you need? You need self-confidence. You need self-control, right? You need self-discipline. You need enthusiasm. You need to be able to serve people. You need that stuff. So you start speaking. So I do my affirmations, and that, I've done my prayer. I've done my visualization. See, this is a big thing to build belief as well, is seeing where you want to go. See, if you're stuck thinking about what you went through or what yesterday looks like, you can't go forward if you're looking behind. And that's why your rear view mirror is a lot smaller than your windshield. You're supposed to have your eyes fixed forward. Now, the problem is some people, when they start fixing forward, that lens that they're looking through is coloring the windshield with the rear view mirror of the past. So you're projecting all the things you've gone through and what you've done and all those kind of things, instead of saying, no, I'm going to look forward to something to see success. See, we were all created by a creator to create. We're the only ones that were created to have dominion, that have the ability to imagine. Like a silkworm doesn't wake up in the morning and think, do I create a poly cotton blend today? They go create silk. That's what they do. But we wake up in the morning, we're created to create. We're the only people, human beings, are able to create a future. We're created to create futures. The problem is too many people get stuck in their past, and their future is just a replicate of the past that they didn't want in the first place. And even if like, for instance, if I don't want to continue to do the same amount of volume I'm doing 6 months as I am now. But guess what? What I'm doing right now, I wanted to be doing 6 months ago. I hoped today, 6 months ago, that it would look like today. But I don't hope that it still looks like that, meaning that I'm visualizing what my new hope is. What you've got, you don't hope. If you're not married and you're single, you're like, I hope I get married one day. Once you're married, you don't say, I hope I get married. You're already there. So our goal is to continue to have hopes, what we hope for, and visualize that to see it come to pass. Like the other day, my wife woke me up in the morning, not in the morning, she woke me up like at 3 o'clock, and she said, hey, you're freaking me out. I said, what do you mean freaking? You freaking me out? You just woke me up. She said, you freaking me out because you were having a nightmare. You were like whining like a baby, like, ah, you said you were crying in your sleep. She said, you're going like, ah, and like, she's like, you're screaming. It was a cry. She freaked me out. I was like, well, I didn't know. The thing is, I didn't know because my body doesn't know the difference between what I imagine and what I experience. So if I can visualize my success happening, then my body is going to be moved by my imagination of what I'm visualizing. Opposed to most people, they memorize the feeling of doubt, disbelief, shame, and all these different things. And they don't leave that because it just feels normal. So every day they don't even realize that they feel that way because it's just a replication of what they've always felt, and they never walk into what they want to walk into. So visualization and then reading and developing. And I read the Bible every day, but you can read whatever you want to read in a book. This is the stuff that builds belief. Last thing I'll say is this: calling the agent that you're working with after you get at a client's house and getting some feedback. What can I have done differently? What can I tweak? What can I adjust? And never letting negative crap come out of your mouth. No gossip, no complaining, no whine. It is going to kill you. It's going to kill you. Like guarding your heart by protecting what comes into your ears, what comes out of your mouth, and what comes into your sight. Guard your heart, because there's always going to be things that can pull you and distract you. And the distraction is just something that pulls you, that takes you from the traction of the goal that you're set after. But there's always going to be noise. That's going to happen. But the people that let the noise in, that noise eventually leads them to doubt, division, distortion of what they're currently doing. And there's always two ways to put anything. I could give you 19 different scenarios of how you can put things where one person thinks it's great, the other person thinks it's not. The question is, does this lead to the success that I desire, or does it lead to my failure? And if I continue to listen to it long enough, it will move you. Last thing I'll say is this. I bumped into one of my he used to be a buddy of mine in high school. I hadn't seen him in a long time. And I was like, how's it going, man? He's like, man, it's going good. I'm just trying to get people to understand what I've come to be my truth. I said, and the way he said it, I was like, this dude is not right. I said, what's your truth? He said, dude, people don't know. The world is flat. I said, come again? He said, the world's flat. And I'm like, huh? And dude, he had all these good points where I'm like, heck, it almost seems like he might be right. But the reason why he believed that is because he consumed so much of that, whether it was training podcasts or listening to other people that thought the world was flat. And as stupid as that sounds, he's literally now, that's his truth. What I would encourage you guys all to do is be careful. Be careful what you listen to. Be careful when you get started about Uncle Billy and your cousin Joe that's got Cheeto Puff dust in his belly button as he blogs in his black G-string in his mom's basement. Be careful about what other people say about your company. If you work with FFL, that's your company. If you hear little noise and stuff, be careful what you hear, because you'll eventually think the world is flat, even though it's not. You believe what you hear repeatedly. Be objective. Know what's right. No, meaning that in any area of this business, you can be distracted. Keep your focus fixed on the thoughts that lead to success. Because if you don't, you're going to put weight on your bats. You're going to tie weights around your ankles. And as you cross from where you're at to where you want to go, and you go through that wilderness process, you're going to get stuck wandering in the wilderness if you listen to the wrong voices. If you want to go to where you want to get to, that promised land, you got to hear the truth. The truths are on podcasts, the training, the things that build you up, the business development side, the personal growth side, that kind of stuff. The truth is in the numbers. There's so many people killing it. Keep that in front of you and don't compare. You don't know what people started with. You don't know their story. Don't compare yourself to one person or this one person. You know, they wrote 40,000 the first month. I suck now. You don't know. You don't know that. You don't know what they started with, what their background was. You don't know you don't know. Because until you actually ask them, you're going to uncover the truth. And what you thought wasn't. Don't be tricked. Don't believe a lie. Don't be head faked. If you see one person that's working only $500 in leads and writing 40,000, don't believe that that's how you could do it. Maybe they've got referrals and they develop. You don't know. If their net profit's 40 grand because they only spent 2 grand leads, you're like, that's how it should look for me. And don't compare the person that spends way too much. They buy $15,000 in leads and they wrote 30,000, but their net income is 9. Don't compare that. That's not the way it should look. That's the way it always looks. Find the model where duplicate that, but keep your head down. So anyways, I hope that makes sense. I don't know if you have any questions. I've got about 10 minutes and then I got to hop off, but.
That's perfect, man. Love it. And that's the real foundation of what our company is built on. And, it's so good, man. I really wanted to give opportunity to all these good people on the call to ask you questions. I got plenty, but I'm just going to get out of the way. So if anybody got questions, please feel free to go ahead and ask Paul.
I have a question. Can you hear me
What's
okay?
up, Wayne? Loud and clear, dude.
How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing good, my man. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hey, I think I appreciate you jumping on. One of the things that I get a lot from agents across the board is how to set the table in the house. And I think if there's anybody in this company that I have to thank for my career, more than Mark, it's you, or along the same lines as Mark, it's you, because I've literally stolen everything that you've put out. So can you walk us through kind of how you set the table and the expectations about what's about to happen when you're in the house and the objections that it eliminates as a result of you doing what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Now to that point, Wayne, I remember you doing a podcast. I think it was a TNL. This is years ago when it just got launched, and you did a podcast on setting the table. And I took a ton of notes from that. And a lot of the way I set my table was stolen from you. So that's what most people don't think. Like, I'm really good at, no matter how long I've been in this business, no matter what kind of picking things and then putting it into my script. And so I think a lot of times people think, man, that sounds so good. It's because I took a little bit from all these phenomenal people and I put it together. And it's just like, now it became something that it wasn't before. But, and I still remember that, man. I still have the notes on my iPad actually from you setting the table. And guys, I would suggest you go find that podcast that Wayne has about setting the table. But, I think setting the table, for one, and I'm not going to, I'll try to answer with as many structured points as possible quickly. But I think for one, it starts before you get out of your car. I think you got to set the table in your own head. If the table's not set in your own mind, as far as what you see to take place, when you get into the house, you're not going to set it right. And you go back to any kind of professional athlete, they visualize, everything going the way they want it to go. And then all of a sudden their body just kind of goes through, like I just spoke about. It just kind of goes through those motions because it's almost like rehearsed. And so for me, I'd always do this 1-minute goal setting before I got in my car. And I'd really visualize everything going the way it needed to go to lead me to success in the home. And so, setting the table, I just believe that one thing I always held on to is I can't convince unless I've connected. And I want to be more interested than interesting was kind of the things that I wanted to hold on to. And so the way I set the table with rapport building is if they know I've got 5 kids, I know that they've got 3 kids and how old their kids are. If they know I'm married, I know they're married. I know how long they've been married for. So I'm not that creep where they don't know nothing about me. They know about me, but I'm a little bit more interested and interesting. Yeah, I know more about them. And I think that's a very important thing. And that goes throughout the whole in-home. My whole in-home, it's very structured, but I'm also continuing to layer rapport by just asking questions, being interested in them, tell them a little bit about myself, but knowing more about them and that kind of stuff. And then the way the table is set is, once I've done that, I go through and let them know that, hey, who I am. So I think it's important for you to let them know who you are when you're setting the table up, that you're a person that works with multiple carriers, that, you know, every situation is kind of unique and different. And I start to set up the close and assume the close by little things such as, like, you know, every situation I deal with Ivan is pretty unique and different. I mean, I've been doing this for quite a while. And even today, we've helped clients with Mutual of Omaha, some with John Hancock, some with Forrester, some with Americo, some with Prosperity, some with Aetna, some with AIG. And I do all that because I'm setting the table to assume that obviously you're going to get this, because psychologically everybody wants to do what everybody's doing. So I'm almost creating this herd of people that they're going to follow, because I'm letting them know that all these people today that they don't know, but that they are a Mutual of Omaha. So I'm letting them know that there's a herd of people getting it. Therefore, you should probably get it. Obviously, I'm here for a reason. I'm validating the fact that you should. Also, I'm suppressing the doubt that I don't want to be the one taken. Everybody's kind of scared of being that person that got took. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to be the one that got. You see what I'm saying? Like, we're like, man, that person got one over on me. So I'm kind of addressing that as well in my whole one statement of, man, everybody I sit with is pretty much unique and different as far as situation I've been in. And so today we've helped clients with this, and that. Also, I'm in that the table's being set to overcome the shopping around, because I helped the client today with this policy and that policy and this policy and that policy. So I'm also setting a table to say that at the end of the day, there's no point to shop around. I use all these different carriers, and those carriers are also giving me credibility as well by me just telling them about the fact that I want to kind of meet you where you're at, because every situation is unique and different. And then I go into assumptiveness, which is obviously this is important to you. And I don't ask a question I don't know the answer to. I say, Ivan, listen. And most people, though, Ivan, that fill out this request, they kind of have the same thing in mind. They want to make sure that if, God forbid, they don't come home tomorrow, or God forbid, Ivan, that your spouse is trying to wake you up and you don't wake up, and she just continues to shake and you don't come to, that there's a plan in place to make sure there's not a financial devastation while going through the hardest emotional thing you could ever experience. That's what most people, most families kind of tell me is on their heart and on their mind, is to make sure there's peace of mind that protection is in place to cover their family when that event takes place. And whether that's income replacement, final expenses, mortgage protection, or legacy, that it's to attack and handle those things. Is that fair to assume that kind of explains you as well, Ivan? Now he's going to say yes. I'm not saying, why did you fill this out? I just don't think that works. And if you do it and it works for you, keep using it. It never worked good for me. I said, hey, Ivan, tell me why you filled this out. Because I get like, I don't know, man, it came in the mail. I fill out things that come in the mail. This came in the mail, fill it out, you're here. What do you got any other stupid questions? That's what I feel like I'd get, you know? So I set it up like that. And I might say, no, Ivan, of those 3-4 things, what was most important to you? Was it more to make sure when you died that income being gone, it was replaced? Was it final expenses that day when you don't wake up and your spouse saying, oh my God, what do I do? What just took place? That right away she's hit with how do I plan to bear? Was it that? Was it legacy? So I do stuff like that to kind of really hit the why. I think a big way to set the table is in everything I go through, I want the table to be set on emotion, on value, because people don't move unless they're emotion. Most everybody makes decisions based off of emotion for the most part, and then they try to validate it by logic, right? That's why I go again back to visualizing the future, have that emotion be created of what it's going to feel like to do those behaviors that lead to what you want. Let that emotion pull you, not the emotion of the doubt or the struggle, or I'm not good enough, or this didn't work out, that kind of stuff. But I want it to be set at emotion. I want the table to be emotional. So everything I do has emotion tied to it. Even when I go to the next step, Wayne, where I say, listen, the 3 things I really want to accomplish is one, I want to make sure that you can afford this. Now, and I'll say this, then I'll hop off because this guy, I hope, gives you an idea of how it's at the table. But see, some people say there's 3 things I want to accomplish. You can afford it, that you qualify, and that you understand it. And that's all they say. So that was great because I think they do need to know what your goal is and that you wanted to make sure that they can qualify for it and they understand it. But how can I use every part of my in-home to create more emotion that's going to serve me in helping this family? So I say things like, Ivan, the first thing I want to make sure, and my goal is to make sure you can afford it, because Ivan, at the end of the day, the only plan that makes sense is the one that's here when you pass away. Ivan, I've done this quite a while, and the hardest thing I've experienced as a field underwriter in this is when I get a phone call, my office has a phone call, and the spouse is crying hysterically. They're going through the beginning stages of grieving, and they can't hold it together. And they're calling because they think and they feel like we're at least some kind of security and stability in that storm, because we're going to help them with not having to deal with the financial devastation at that same time. And they know they got to figure this out. So they call because I went out there to protect their family. And we pull it up and we say, ma'am, I'm sorry, but your husband called in 3 months ago and canceled it, and he listed he couldn't afford it. That is heart-wrenching for me, Ivan. So my most important thing is make sure that you can sustain this. And some clients get so emotional about how much they want because it's so important, but anything's better than nothing. Does that make sense, Ivan? And he says, yes. Do you see how I said the same thing as far as our goal is to make it affordable? But I'm just telling you, if you miss this, you're missing your whole in-home and how to sell. What I said took 45 more seconds, but I'll tell you that's what's closing the deal. I've got their imaginations going now, and I'm not selling. I don't seem like a salesperson at all. I seem like a person that really gives a damn, that really cares. That's what I seem like when I talk about when I don't want that phone call. And then the second thing, I'll make sure you could qualify, because I've at the end of the day, there's nothing more important than the peace of mind of having this. And so the worst thing is we think the solution's there, but you don't qualify. And you think you can't get the solution, because I know how important the solution is for you. So we want to make sure we look at plans that you can qualify for. And then understand, I go into the why building of understanding. So the whole in-home the table is set around emotion, value, assumptiveness, or we can just boil it down to the table is set on value and assumptiveness. I assume it's already done. So everything about what I'm doing, herd concept, all that kind of stuff, it's centered around value and assumptiveness. So that's kind of how I would set it up.